Hey y'all, and welcome back to Leonard Creek Farm. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Today we're going to talk about how to determine whether an animal should stay on your farm or should leave. I'll give you a few points and tips that we use to determine whether it should stay or get out. Alright guys, so if you're a regular viewer of our channel, you know that we have had multiple different types of animals on the farm, and here recently we decided to sell our goats, thus the empty goat lot. And I'll talk to you today about how we determine whether an animal should be here or whether they shouldn't. Let's get into it. The first thing we need to talk about is when you get an animal, if you are buying that animal for pleasure or business, because that is going to be a big determinant of whether the animal stays or goes, and whether it's meeting the requirements that comes with pleasure or comes with business. So first of all, when you're thinking about an animal, you need to determine whether it's one or the other. Even before purchasing an animal, we always have the discussion whether the animal will be for pleasure or business. It doesn't mean those things can't cross over, but it just means that it's going to determine whether the happiness outweighs the income or the output or the input that you give to the animal. Now, neither one of those things should determine the way that you take care of the animal or treat the animal. The animal should be, whatever animal it is, should be treated as well, whether it be for business or for pleasure. They should be treated with the same type of kindness, love, care, and tenderness that you would give to either business or pleasure. Guys, so on this farm, there is two big determining factors whether an animal stays or goes. There's multiple other things that I'll bring up, but there's two main determining factors that decides whether the animal is worth paying for. And so let's get into, is it worth paying for? That's the first point. Financially, is there any type of income the animal is bringing you? If they are bringing in income, is the animal bringing enough income to pay for themselves? Are you cutting it even, or are you going down the drain? So that's going to be a big determining on this farm, whether the animal stays or goes. The second determining thing of whether the animal stays or goes is whether it is giving us anything back. This could be, like I said, monetarily. It could be rather they're producing offspring. It could be rather they're laying eggs, or vice versa, rather they've quit laying eggs. And it could be rather they are giving, if it's in a pleasure situation, rather they are giving more pleasure than they are grief. And so when I talk about things crossing over, I talked about if rather it's going to be a hobby or a business, rather it's for business or pleasure. And if an animal is bringing more heartache or more aggravation than it is pleasure, then there comes a time where you have to reflect and think if that animal should be on the farm any longer, if that animal should be in your care or somebody else's care. I talked about early on, whether it's business or pleasure, the animal should receive the same amount of care it would for business as it does pleasure. And if something becomes unpleasurable, we tend to neglect certain things that we wouldn't neglect if it was more pleasurable. And so if you have an animal that becomes hard to deal with, hard to handle, has aggressive behaviors, is continually getting sick, is continually going to the vet, you're going to have to determine whether that's something that you continue to deal with, or you let somebody else turn it over to somebody else so that they can care for the animal differently than what you're caring for the animal. Now, I just mentioned a few things just there, talking about whether an animal becomes pleasurable or not. And a couple of the things that I mentioned is aggressive behavior and constant illness. And so that is a big, big determining factor on the farm, whether an animal stays or goes. If we're constantly having to, let's say it's a goat or a cow or a horse, if we're constantly having to worm the goat, the cow, the horse, if they're constantly getting sicknesses, if with goats, if they constantly had bad feet, or they were just not doing very well, they were gone. Rather they were cold, or rather they found somewhere else to live. That's a big thing for us. Another thing that goes with that is aggressive behavior. Where we have a young child who is with our animals on a daily basis, who handles our animals, not all of them, but most of them on a daily basis, aggressive behavior towards her or aggressive behavior towards us is not something we tolerate. We don't keep animals here that nip, bite, scratch, growl, bully, or push. You've seen recent videos of, if you've watched, of me talking about a aggressive rooster that's not aggressive towards us but is aggressive towards hens. He's gone. He's not here no longer, because those type of behaviors shouldn't be tolerated on your farm, and they're not tolerated on our farm. This video is not about why necessarily to get rid of those animals for that behavior, but reasons we determine rather to get rid of an animal for that behavior. And I just want to touch a little bit on that. I don't want to make a whole video about it, but the number one reason why behaviors like that are not tolerated on our farm is because those behaviors can be passed on to offspring, and before you know it, that offspring acts just like its parent. And then you're continuing to have those behaviors pop up within your flock, within your herd, within your rabbitry. And so you can't tolerate one animal having bad behaviors, because those things trickle down to the rest of them. And so, like I said, I don't want to make the whole video about that, but that is something to think about when you're determining whether an animal stays or go. You really need to think about what traits you're passing down to the next generation, and whether those are good traits or bad traits. Well, guys, I hope this video was helpful, educational, supporting, brought knowledge, or brought up things maybe you forgot or haven't thought about. I don't judge people, and I'm not trying to judge people. I'm trying to be supportive. And so I don't look down on anybody, whether they cull their animals or whether they don't, or whether they keep those behaviors on their farm or whether they don't. I'm just here to help the next guy. And so I appreciate y'all watching. I appreciate y'all hanging out. And like I said, I hope that this video was helpful in some way. We'll see you next time. Bye.